Big news today for Tennessee on the recruiting front as On3 has produced their final rankings. I am Brent Hubbs along with Matt Ray as we take a look at some of the movers and shakers for Tennessee in this class, Matt. And we start first and foremost at the top where Nico Iamalava has moved into the number one spot overall by the On3 rankings team of Charles Power and his group. What are your thoughts, first of all, on the move there? And secondly, what do you think it means to Tennessee to have the overall number one player in the class?
Yeah, I think for Nico, I like the move. Obviously, I'm sure he likes the move. Put in a pretty complete body of work during his time there at Warren and continued to progress, answer questions that folks had about him fundamentally, mentally. And I think there was a lot of Nico mania in the Tennessee sphere, and from really November of 2021 up until the commitment in March. But for the national side of the rankings and everything like that, it started really to trend this direction in July OT7, when you had Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson, all of the elite quarterbacks kind of centered in one place, and Nico stole the show, and then he delivered throughout his senior season. So, I think for him, a very well-deserved move. I think he has all of the traits that you look for in a, franchise top quarterback today. He's elusive. He's got the escapability, can work off platform and really make any of the throws that you want him to make. And for Tennessee, I think obviously it's exciting. You and I have talked about this already a couple of times over the past few days. You've been selling a vision. You were selling a vision to a guy like Nico. Now you're selling a product, and to go along with that product, as you start talking to 2024s, a couple of the guys that you had on campus this past weekend, Ron Wingo, Mike Matthews, top skill guys. Now you had to have a chance to sit down and say, hey, not only are we doing this, we also have the number one overall prospect, number one overall quarterback in last year's class that we can facilitate the ball to you.
All right, I've gotta ask you, man, about the Vegas 7-on-7 that you referenced. You mentioned it in the Rocky Top Rewind, I think on Sunday night. Charles Power mentioned it as well when he talked about it. You watched that. You saw that there. What was it about his performance there that stood out? What was the, I don't want to say jaw dropping, but what was the things he did there that really got everybody's attention?
The decisiveness, I think, right away stood out. He came into the event, um, and Team Toa had a good collection of talent with it, but it didn't have some of the talent that you saw from other teams like South Florida Express, Hustle Inc., C1N, Cam Newton's team. Nico was throwing to a lot of guys that were not rated, underrated, and he goes out and he's upsetting these teams. He's decisive. They do a wolf type deal where you can rush on certain plays. You get so many blitzes, and inside of that, he showed his elusiveness and ability to work off schedule. Just overall, I think you've got to see a little bit of the mental makeup of Nico during those 3 days, as well as the combination of talent.
All right, Nico, not the only guy making a move here, so let's bounce around with a couple other guys, and we've got the full list and the story Matt did earlier today. It's on the message board as well. I want to start with Nathan Leacock. There's other guys who made bigger jumps, but I keep coming back to Nathan Leacock because of the evaluation. Matt, Tennessee was early, and that paid dividends for them. What do you think everybody's caught up to about Nathan that Tennessee saw in him so early that other schools maybe didn't pay attention to?
Just the freak athleticism, I think. In today's game, with the way offenses take vertical shots and challenge defenders with the having guys that have the ability to run, Nathan Laycock lines up for all of those things. A guy, I think Charles Powers mentioned it, a 10.8 100-meter guy, but then you're talking about a guy that can stand flat-footed and do a backflip and pads. So just a freak overall athlete, can run past you, a big high catch point, big catch radius. And like you said, Brent, Tennessee was in on him early. They had a pretty good portion of the guys that ultimately ended up in this signing class in for Rocky Top Palooza there in May, but Nathan Laycock couldn't get here. but Tennessee still slotted out time to spend on the phone with him, talk about the activities that were going on, and recruit him during that weekend while having all those other guys on campus. So it became clear right away that Tennessee was prioritizing him and ultimately won out because of that.
Yeah, and that's something that Nathan talked about from the get-go. When he felt like Kelsey Pope was, every time he talked to him, he was the most important person in Kelsey Pope's world. He was smart enough to understand, hey, I'm sure he talks to a lot of guys like that, but
Yep.
in my conversations with Kelsey Pope, it's very clear how important I am to him and to Tennessee, and it obviously paid dividends. Another guy Tennessee put a lot of investment in. Everybody knew he could play, but made a big jump, and I think this excites Tennessee almost as much as Tennessee fans, almost as much as Nico, is at the cornerback position with Jordan Matthews jumping 100 spots here. You surprised at how big of a move he made there, and why do you think? Why do you think the national people sort of caught up to what he could do? Was it that good of a senior year?
Yeah, I think it was that good of a senior year for Jordan Matthews. He had a chance to go against a five-star wide receiver in Shelton Sampson, the LSU commit. So, it's had a chance to do that, back-to-back seasons, and I think the body of work that he continued to put together, he has the desirable traits. I think he's a track guy. He can run. He's got length. Got a good IQ. Comes from a football family, and with his dad. So I think for Jordan Matthews, is about going out, showing it again. One of the best recruitments, I think, of the overall cycle. Just complete shocker to many, and kept it quiet and close to the vest up until the end. We don't get to see that a lot, but for Jordan Matthews, a well-deserved jump as well.
Yeah, another guy who makes a jump in this class is Weathersby, who again I think that's another credit, Matt, to the evaluation, Rodney Garner and the staff. I mean, he was a pretty decently thought of recruit when he came through in the summer and committed to Tennessee. Then you turn on the senior tape, and his game went to another level after he made his college choice, which you don't sometimes you don't see that, right? Sometimes guys
Right.
get kind of relaxed and a little bit fat and happy, if you will. He found another gear, which I think has to be a positive for Rodney Garner, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And he's a guy that frame alone is just able to do so many things because of how much length he has and how much athleticism he has. Measuring in at 6'3". Tennessee loved the arm length that they verified him at over the summer, leading into that commitment. But the motor for Tyree Weathersby is relentless. The frame suggests that he can pack on some pounds and really get molded by Rodney Gardner once he gets to campus. So you have to think that that's a lot to do with that projection for him. And like you said, then you turn on the senior tape, and all of that lines up as it looks like the game of football starting to click for him.
Yep, and again, other guys that line up, I'm not going to run them all down, but we talked about this on the Tuesday podcast, the Tuesday morning podcast about the defensive side of the ball and how much that gets guys should get fans excited with what they got done in this class after having something tangible to sell under Tim Banks and seeing it. You got you got Hobbs, who's still a 5 star. You've got Herring, you've got Weathersby, you've got Jordan Matthews, you've got Aaron Carter, you got Ricky Gibson. All of those guys, Shadavian Bradley, all those guys in the top 185, 190 players in the country. That gives Tennessee fans optimism about that defensive roster flip, which has been a work in progress since Josh Heupel got here, right?
Absolutely. And one of those guys I'll touch on quickly that you talked about right there, Ricky Gibson. That there was plenty of Georgia smoke in those 3 weeks leading into where's Ricky Gibson going to go? Is it Tennessee? Is it Georgia? Maybe Georgia's just trying to slow him down. No, there was no trying to slow Ricky Gibson down. Georgia got Ricky Gibson to campus. He tested off the charts at that camp, and Georgia put a full court press on him. So that's another guy that you're adding in that's a top 175 defensive back. But yeah, Tennessee really, really loaded up, as you can see in the defensive rankings in this class. And even a guy like Shandavian Bradley, who was the guy that fell the most, still the projections there. He has the quick twitch, he has the frame, he has everything he needs to do. He needs to add some weight, when he gets to a college campus, but still a guy that's inside the top 200 for Tennessee, I don't think you could have asked for a better defensive signing class than what they pieced together so far.
Yeah, and certainly you look at who they've also beat out. It's not just about the numbers and it's not just about the
Right.
star, but you look at who they beat out for Davian Hobbs, who they beat out for Carter, who they beat out for Ricky Gibson, Jordan Matthews, those guys. They're swimming in the waters of the defensive teams that are leading the country right now. And that's where you got to get to if you're going to get that roster flip, which is why Arian Carter was such a big deal at the end to go with what I think is already a good linebacker class. Maybe they're not in the top 300, but Jeremiah Thielander can play. You know, he's
Yeah.
too productive for me to say not to. The last guy I want to talk about is Cam Seldon. He jumps 20 spots. He's hard to rank, though, Matt, because what do you rank him as? I think that's the challenge when you look at the ranking of him. Where do you put him? What do you do with him?
I can look at that guy and see him playing 7 or 8 different positions on the football field. I mean, honestly, I
Yep.
mean, he can do everything, and you immediately think Swiss Army knife on the defensive or on the offensive side of the football. But heck, I think he could be as productive on the defensive side of the football if you wanted to be with the way that he runs and moves. I agree with you, Brent. I think that's the biggest problem is where do you rank him? How does he project? But he's a guy that I think Tennessee can get a lot of production out of, starting early in his career on special teams and trying to facilitate touches for him.
Yep, and again, a lot of guys moving and shaking in the rankings. Full details of that have been up at Volquest all day long. If you're just joining us, Tennessee has the #1 overall player in the country in Nico, but it's not just about Nico. And I think that's the exciting part for Tennessee fans, Matt, is Nico is not the outlier, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys in this top 175, which bodes well for Tennessee. We've got all the details at Volquest.com. Matt Ray's got all the details on all these guys. You want to keep it right here at Volquest. This class is done. The next class is on the move. Tennessee's swinging out. They're on the road. We've got full details of that coming up in the War Room later this week. And obviously, Tennessee getting ready for their second major junior day, but we have more coverage from last Saturday's junior day as well. He is Matt Ray. I'm Brent Hubbs for Volquest.com.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the video here at Volquest on YouTube, the leading source of University of Tennessee football, basketball, and recruiting. Be sure to check out our latest video right here and our latest live show right above it. All that at Volquest.com and Volquest on YouTube.